and say what makes the most sense out of reality. And I believe you're going to land on Christianity. I did as much research as possible on other ones, and I almost gave up my faith, and there wasn't even a close second. Hedonism is very comfortable. It's very nice, but it doesn't make more sense of reality.
So I'm an agnostic.
Okay.
I went to church my whole life, 17 years old.
Yep.
I want to believe in God, but I feel like there's two things that I have here that kind of stray me away from that.
Okay.
First off, you see throughout the entire Bible, I have one verse, Hebrews 11, verse 6, but without faith it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him.
Yep.
God tells us throughout the Bible that we must believe in him. How can God expect us to do something voluntarily that is involuntary? So if I tell you, Cliff, I'm a superhero, you can tell me that you believe I'm a superhero, but you can't force yourself to believe that.
Good. Very good. I'm agnostic. I'm not sure he's really standing here. I'm agnostic. I'm not sure he's really standing here. Right about now, I have to make a decision. I can't be agnostic anymore. Either his face begins there, or he's just a dream I'm having, and I can swing right through it. Now, it really doesn't matter whether I am not able to answer the question, is Coke better than Pepsi, or is Pepsi better than Coke? I'm sorry, I'm agnostic, I don't know. But I cannot be agnostic about him. Right about now, I've got to make a decision. I have no choice. The same is true with God. Because the God question has to do with the value of a human being, the meaning of life, ethics and morality, how you live your life, and the possibility of life after death. I'm sorry, every single one of us we have no choice. We have to answer those questions. Valuable or trash? Meaning in life, meaningless. I can rip his cross off and run and steal. That's cool. Or no, that's his property. I need to respect that. I've got to make decisions every day. Pay my taxes, don't pay my taxes. Those are ethical decisions. So I'm sorry, you can't be agnostic about ethics because you got to live your life. And you're going to have to go to Grandma and Grandpa's funeral. And you have no choice. You're going to sit there in the funeral and you're going to say, okay, nothing happened. It really doesn't matter that Grandma and Grandpa died. Nothing happened really of any significance. You can't do that. You got to ask yourself, is there life after death? If so, why? Is there no life after death? If so, why? So you see, sir, that's the impossibility of agnosticism. Because the depth of the issues involved in the God question are so big, they're so practical, you can't run away from them. Does that make any sense?
It does, but I'm still stuck on the fact that I can't force myself to believe in specifically the Christian God.
Okay, fine. I understand totally. The question is God real? Does God exist? The evidence of the universe, be it the order and design, be it existence being real, but not being eternal, someone had to begin it, the existence of love as a real value, not just a chemical reaction, not just a sex drive, but a real value, the evidence of reason coming from reason, not from non-reason, the evidence of life coming from life, not from non-life, is all evidence that some type of God exists. Would you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay, good. All right. So we're both theists then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We both agree that God exists. Now, the next difficult question is, who is God? Okay, now, I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm going to give you an illustration that I hope you'll never forget. Hi, my name's Cliff. What's your name?
Ethan. Ethan Hayden.
Philip?
Ethan.
Andrew?
Ethan.
Keep going, man. Johnny?
Ethan.
Okay. Not only am I being disrespectful to Ethan, I'm an arrogant twit. I think I know your name better than you do. That's a lie. And if I'm not going to have the humility to allow you to reveal to me that you're Ethan, You're not Johnny, Philip, Andrew, or Constantine. You're Ethan. I'm never going to have the privilege of getting to know you. Well, if that's true between you and me, it's even more true between God and me. I can't figure out God. I'm not smart enough to figure out God. That's where Jesus Christ comes in. He claims to be God, opening up and revealing to us his real name. Now, the majority of those people who claim that, we lock up in mental hospitals. So the obvious next question is Jesus a candidate for a mental hospital, or is he a candidate for me to trust him? That's an historical question, because he lived an historical life. So I get to read about his lifestyle, how he treated people, his ethical teachings like the Sermon on the Mount, the way he died, loving and forgiving his enemies, and the way he rose from the dead. And when I begin to see that evidence, sir, it becomes clear. No, I can't prove him. Okay, no proof. But the evidence is he's credible, he's reasonable, he's reliable.
So I already knew all of this, like
right?
Who Jesus is, his life. But there's still certain things within the Bible that I think stray me away from completely believing in a Christian God.
Like what?
One I have is Genesis 1, verse 16.
Yep.
I could read it.
Yep.
It says, "Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night." We can both agree he's talking about the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
Next verse he says, he says he made the stars also. So if he's talking about the sun, the moon, and the stars,
Yeah.
one, we can both agree that the moon is not a light source.
Right.
And that the sun, he says he made the stars also.
Yeah.
So the sun is a star.
Yeah.
Why would he imply that the stars are different than the sun? And why would he imply that the moon is a light source if those are wrong?
Sir, when I've got 6 granddaughters, when I go out in the middle of the night with them, I look at the moon and I say, that's the moon, it's a light. And at night when I go out with my little granddaughters again, I say, those stars, those are lights. Genesis 1 is not written in the literary style of scientific observation. When was the sun created in Genesis 1? On what day? Day number 4. And as Augustine, the great Christian thinker, pointed out in the 4th century, in light of the fact that the sun wasn't created till the 4th day, how on earth do we measure the first 3 days? And the point that Augustine is making is to try and attack Genesis 1 as a precise chronological description with a stopwatch on how God created is dishonest. That is not the intent of the author. It is not the literary style of Genesis 1. Instead, in Genesis 1, notice, and go back and read it because you've read it well. Day 1, light, matches day 4, sun. Day 2, separation of the sky from the water. Day 5, birds and fish. Day 3 is land. Day 6 is animal life, human life. There's parallelism there. Day 1 and day 4, day 2 and day 5, day 3 and day 6. So to walk away from that parallelism, which is Hebrew, a type of Hebrew poetry, saying, okay, where's the stopwatch description, is intellectually dishonest because it's not attempting to give a stopwatch description. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. My last...
It's a very simple one. Jesus said, I am the vine. Do you think he's claiming to be a plant?
No, sir.
Good. A lot of people make that mistake, including a guy named Nicodemus in John chapter 3 when Jesus says you got to be born again. He says, right. Climbing back into my mother's womb and coming down a birth canal? No, Nick. Jesus is speaking metaphorically. He's not talking about a physical rebirth. He's talking about a spiritual rebirth. And then in the next chapter, John chapter 4, he says to a woman, I'm going to give you living water. She says, oh boy, I could really use that because I hate coming out here and getting water from a well. No, ma'am. He's not talking about physical water. He's talking about spiritual water. So you've got to allow an author to use metaphor, symbolism, in order to communicate.
Okay. My last kind of point for why I struggle to believe would be, like y'all said, or like you said with being agnostic, it's too serious of an issue to not know. So with that same seriousness, I think with the effects that Christianity can have on society,
Yes.
like LGBTQ community, stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I think without knowing,
Yep.
without 100% believing in your heart, I feel like it's unsafe to just assume that these things are real when it can affect other people.
Okay. If you're living in fornication, I'm a follower of Christ. I think fornication is wrong because Jesus taught it. Does that mean I love you less because you fornicate? Good. All right. I have to work with adulterers and adulteresses. Do you think I love them less because they live in adultery or of some type? No. I have to work with certain people who have a drive to have sex with an animal. Do you think I love them less because they have a drive to have sex with an animal?
No, sir.
Exactly. And I can promise you, I love my gay friends, my homosexual friends, my lesbian friends. I, as a follower of Christ, have no option but to love them because Christ calls me to love everybody. Now, the hardest thing for me to do in life is to love my enemy. That's real hard for me. And that's why I need Christ, to forgive me for my hatred and to give me the power and the reason to love even my enemy. So I can promise you, sir, if you take God out of the picture, all human beings are trash. We're pond scum. That's all we are. So there's no good reason to love LGBTQ people. I, as a follower of Christ, understand all human beings have been created in the image of God. All human beings have equal value. Therefore, I have no option but to love every single stinking person. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, I'm going to thank you, but I want Stuart now to take over and continue to discuss. You are an honor to talk with. Your honesty, your openness is a delight. Stuart, what do you think?
Well, keep searching too. I mean, I think college is a time to ask a lot of questions and to seek out really different worldviews. But to be honest, I don't think you're going to find a better worldview than Christianity. Because what you don't want to do is just look at Christianity and say, oh, you know, that's what I was raised in, that's our culture, so let me just try and poke holes. There's a talking snake, and let me go to the Old Testament, and there's slavery, and I would go to the early New Testament documents, see how much stock is in them, but then look at other worldviews with the same level of skepticism. See, don't just be an agnostic or an atheist and just not even question your agnosticism or atheism. Well, way too many skeptics do that. You know, be skeptical about your hyper-skepticism. Always be skeptical about both sides. And both sides are bringing to the table many different faith and belief systems and ideas. So look at it from a cultural standpoint, look at it from an emotional standpoint, an intellectual standpoint, and an experiential standpoint, and say what makes the most sense out of reality. And I believe you're going to land on Christianity. I did as much research as possible on other ones, and I almost gave up my faith, and there wasn't even a close second. Hedonism is very comfortable. It's very nice, but it doesn't make more sense of reality.
Can I ask you, if you have the time, could you explain why you believe that?
Is there objective morality? Did this place really have a beginning? Was there a great big bang, so there had to have been a beginning? Well, if there's a beginning to this place, there had to be something to have created it. We see that throughout in science. So it's anti-science to say that there wasn't a beginning. Well, then it's anti-science to say that there wasn't at least something to have started this place. So you're actually going against what the Bible always had right scientifically, which was, in the beginning, God created. That's scientific. The Bible got science right. Out of every civilization, the Bible was the only one that got it right. And so then where my mind goes is, okay, if I believe that there's a God, now who is this God? Is it the Hindu gods, one of the 300 million? Or is it Nietzsche, the atheist God? Who is it? Well, I believe the most reliable God is the one that actually claimed to be God, who was a historical figure for certain. There's a consensus across the board on that. Did he make these claims? Well, yeah, he made endless amounts of claims his entire time on earth. Did he back up those claims? And ultimately, was he raised from the dead? And I think there's endless amounts of evidence across the board on all of those. And in places like names, archaeology. It just goes on. And there's only growing amounts of evidence for it.
For 44 years, I've spoken on university campuses. And I've met a boatload of atheists and agnostics. Here are the two questions, though, that I've never gotten a good answer to. I understand you don't believe in God because of lack of evidence. I understand you don't believe in God because there are too many contradictions in the way you think and experience life. I understand you don't believe in Christ because of problems in the text. Okay, fine. What you're really telling me is you can't believe in Christ because of lack of evidence. No problem. I respect you intellectually. Now, what are you living for, and what is the preponderance of evidence that whatever it is you're living for is true? Sir, I've spoken at Columbia in New York City. Incredible discussion on the difference between Luther and Zwingli's view of war. So I say, you know, Professor, you're incredible. That was a treat. Thank you so much. Now, can I ask you, what are you living for, and what's the evidence? The guy looked at me and said, don't ask me that question. I don't know. I'm not a good person to ask that question. Sir, that's embarrassing. That is embarrassing. I spoke at Stanford to a group of Stanford University professors and students. And I asked them, okay, if you can't believe in Christ, obviously you're highly motivated people. You wouldn't be on a faculty here at Stanford if you weren't. But come on, guys, let me ask you, what are you living for, and what's the evidence that what you're living for is true? And the silence was deafening. Oh, I'm a skeptic. I'm an agnostic. I'm sorry, you got to go home and have a relationship with your husband or your wife. You have to either choose to pay the IRS or not your taxes. You see, you can't live in that vacuum. Life does not afford that opportunity to any of us.
We, as humans, can adapt morality on our own without it being a gift from God, passed down through everybody. And I think we see that through a lot of times you see just throughout the world. I think everyone here would agree that it's wrong for a 40-year-old man to have sexual relations with a 14-year-old.
Why?
Because that's just what's culturally accepted here.
Yeah, so it's just culturally relative, right?
But in other places, it's completely fine.
Exactly.
That's what I'm hinting at. Is that I think us as humans have the ability to adapt our own morals.
Yeah, but that means they're relative, right? It means they're not real. It's just a taste. Like, do you prefer broccoli to beans? Well, I like this taste. The question is, what is joy? How do you get it? And what is productivity? Because I can promise you, rape produces. And rape can produce babies. That doesn't mean that rape is good just because you're being productive. So the question is, how do you define productivity? The question is, how do you find happiness and joy? Where do happiness and joy come from? There's a contradiction between the founding mothers and fathers of our nation and today's culture when they wrote, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Those folks who wrote the Declaration of Independence defined happiness as what happens when you live a life of integrity, of compassion, of honesty, of hard work. There is a type of happiness there and joy. Today, happiness is a feeling. Do you have the feeling? And it's tied to comfort, physical comfort usually, and convenience. You see, so who defines what is happiness and how do you get it? And who defines productivity?
I think we could dumb it down to what defines good and bad. And I think for good and bad, from like a caveman perspective, I could walk up to you and say, I don't want to hit you in the face because I don't want you to come back and hit me in the face.
Okay.
Because I know that being hit in the face doesn't feel good.
Good.
Right? So I can determine that it's not a good thing to be hit in the face.
Yep.
Just off of logical thinking, not from a higher being, not
Yep.
from, I can logically process that myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then vice versa for things that are good between things that are bad.
Yep.
Right? It goes both ways.
Yep. And I can promise you, when I was about to discipline him when he was 5 years old, he almost started crying. Oh, no. Please don't discipline me, Dad. Why did I discipline him? Because I'm an ogre? Better not answer that question. No, I disciplined him because I love him. I disciplined him because I knew that if he continued to be lazy, he wouldn't amount to much. He had to study and work. So I disciplined him to study and work. All right? It doesn't feel good to get disciplined. But is it best for him, for me as his father, to discipline him on occasion? Exactly. Doesn't feel very good, though. Does it feel good for you guys to not party and study instead? No. You prefer to party, the majority of us. I prefer to play ball, okay? So I prefer to be out bouncing a ball and playing basketball. But no, I've got to study. I've got to do that which is uncomfortable if I want to live my life with excellence. So watch out for this feeling thing, because you and I live in a culture of feelings.
The moral code
Yes.
that you believe was handed to us through God.
And our conscience picks it up.
Yes, I don't understand that if we have the ability to adapt our own morals.
It's because I can sear my conscience to the point of thinking date rape is good. I've met far too many men on American university campuses who honestly think date rape is okay. That's sick. I am convinced. That's evil. But their explanation is, oh, come on, man. Come on, she has it coming to her. Oh, come on, man. I got a high testosterone level. So just lighten up, Cliff. I say, no, I ain't going to lighten up on you. I'm going to get in your face and try and convince you that for you to date rape is evil. Because that's a woman created in the image of God. That's not a sex toy that you use to get a thrill. That's a human being, and you don't rape her ever. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, but I'm not processing how that means that it comes through God.
Because if there is no God, there is no objective right and wrong.
So even without a God being there, I can tell myself that hitting someone in the face is bad.
Yeah.
So I don't see how that comes from God.
Morality is based on the value of a person. The reason it's wrong for me to hit you in the face, the reason it's wrong for me to lust after a woman, is because you and the woman are human beings created in the image of God with innate value. And when I smack you in the face, when I lust after a woman, that is dehumanizing. It's denigrating a human being created in the image of God. That's why it's wrong. It's not wrong because the police say, Cliff, if you hit him in the face, we're going to pull you off to prison. That's not how it's wrong.
Well, I think we can determine that it's wrong because we wouldn't want it to happen to ourselves or someone that we love.
Okay, then go back to my date rape illustration, okay? I can promise you, guys who date rape have no problem with it.
Yeah, and I can say that I think that's wrong because I wouldn't want that to happen to me or anyone else that I care about.
Fine, but are you more right than them? Are you more right than the people up in Greenland who put their babies outside to freeze in the snow? Are you more right than them? Or are you just an arrogant white American, like me? You see, if morality is based on my opinion, who am I to tell you? Who am I to tell a different culture? Oh no, that's naughty. That's not good. Why, Cliff? Well, because my culture tells me it's wrong. Well, big whoop, Cliff, I don't live in your culture. So with your atheistic or agnostic worldview, the basis of morality is culture or your individual opinion, which means it's relative, depending upon which culture or individual you're talking to.
Which is what we see. That's why at the beginning I said in different countries there's different legal age limits.
Yes.
That's why we see, like in America, that would be, and I think as it should be, that's very disgusting. It's highly frowned upon. But in other countries, you see that a 40-year-old man having sexual relations with a 14-year-old is perfectly fine.
That's right.
So that's where I would say, why do those morals change if it's a moral given to us from God?
Because we have a free will, and every single one of us does evil. I am a dirty, rotten sinner. And if I think it's just people who date rape who have a problem with evil, I'm an arrogant, self-righteous twit. I got a problem with evil. That's why I need Christ.
But according to them, it's not evil.
So what?
To be a 40-year-old with a 14-year-old.
Sir, why did we fight the Civil War? Because some of us were convinced slavery is evil. Don't own slaves. And we're going to fight a war to determine what's going to happen here.
So do you think in the eyes of God that in those countries where it is legal, do you think that it's evil in the eyes of God?
Exactly. I am saying that during the Nuremberg trials, when those Nazi officers were being judged for Dachau, Auschwitz, and Buchenwald, and they were condemned, That was good. But those Nazi lawyers who were defending those Nazi officers were brilliant, because they're sitting there at the Nuremberg trial saying, whoa, 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 time out, you allies. You have no business judging. German soldiers who grew up in a culture who, in obedience to their officers, gassed Jews. And the Nuremberg trial shut down. That was a brilliant defense. Until Robert Jackson, the American consul, stood up and said, excuse me, there is a law above the law of culture, and the law above the law of culture says gassing Jews is evil. This is not an American thing. This is not an Allied thing. This is the law of God. The Nuremberg trials kicked back into gear, and those Nazi officers were condemned for gassing Jews. If you don't like that analogy, then just look at Dr. Martin Luther King. Read the letter from the Birmingham jail. Dr. King was being told, shut up, black boy. The great state of Alabama says segregation's good. And in his letter from a Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King says, there is a law above the law of the great state of Alabama. And according to that law, segregation is evil.
You're appealing to selfish desires when it comes to morality. Don't hit me, and I won't hit you, but that's all based off of because I don't want you to hit me. Okay, don't you understand? Alan Dershowitz, top Harvard lawyer, he did O.J. Simpson's trial. He set up a case study for his class where he said, look at every single civilization across the world. And if you have a woman crossing the street and you're going to stick your neck out on the line to protect that woman from getting struck by a car, and you're going to risk your life in doing it, one person is going to do it because they feel that it's an honorable thing and they're going to bring shame to themselves if they don't do it. That's shame and honor culture, so all Eastern countries. The second one is going to do it because they're going to have some type of pat on the back. There could be some type of reward. We don't know what it is, but there's going to be a reward. That's what you're appealing to right now. The third type of person is going to do it just to do it for that person's sake, the grandma's, the old lady's sake, and risk their very life. Okay, then he turned to the class and he said, which one do we abide by here in the US? And everybody raised their hand. He picked on multiple people and they said, obviously the third one, Judeo-Christian values. I promise you, sir, you might be espousing and saying the second one. The third one is what you live by and you hopefully want everybody to live by. Because if we're living by the second, which is the one you're talking about, appealing to selfish desires, then you can go gladly go cheat on your next exam if you can get away with it and it's not really going to hurt anybody in doing so. I think there's something in you that's a little deeper than that, which Friedrich Nietzsche talked about when it came to, oh, evolution teaches the morality of the strong eat the weak. It's all about raise, rend, tooth, and claw. It's about dominating other people. So why would you live by this slavish Christian morality of actually helping people, of being compassionate, pitying others, loving others? Why would you ever do that? But I think you live by that value system, and it comes right from Christ. And I think, if I had to guess, that probably makes the most sense to you. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this episode. Hit that subscribe button. We love for you to join the family. Also, want to invite you to our church in New Canaan, Connecticut. It's New Canaan High School, and it meets Sundays at 9:30 a.m.